everyone. My name is Camila and I'm with Pixagono. And with me today, I have awesome author Hannah Levin. Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing wonderfully. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and for chatting about your wonderful, wonderful book, the Steadfast One. I'm so surprised it didn't get blurred. Yes.
Yes, lovely. Oh,
Yes.
yes, I've been looking forward to this. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So let's talk about this. So this it caught my attention when I was doom scrolling on Instagram and your page rolled up and I saw, do you like D&D? Do you like romantasy?
Mhm.
Like this
Mhm.
might be a good book for you. And I was like, okay, you had me at D&D. Like I need this right now. So here we are. Thanks for letting me. Thanks
Yes, I found the right audience. Good, good,
for
good.
but no, it was awesome. And something that, like, this isn't a spoilery thing, but something that you learn right off the bat is that the main character is Brazilian, and I thought that was just so cool. I'm from Brazil. I'm from São Paulo.
Mhm.
So having Marcia de Souza be from Fortaleza, that just made it made my week that week. I kept just vibrating about it. I love the Portuguese that you wrote and like your expressions and the slang is really spot on and great. And I just wanted to know like where did the inspiration for a Brazilian character like come from?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you.
Uh-huh.
It's so wonderful that like the little things that we put all that effort into like gets noticed because I'm
Yeah.
sure 99% of readers are gonna just overlook it. It's just another tiny detail, but for it to connect with you like that, that's amazing. Essentially, I'm not the kind of person who'll try to just get representation and for the sake of representation. I think it's part of the world. I mean, it's something that has existed forever and that will exist forever. So it's important that that be shown, true to life. So that has been one of my inspirations in writing. Is even in fantasy having that thread of realism. So for this particular character, I don't know if you read the first book, but in the first book it was mentioned because this is a series of interconnected standalones. It was mentioned that these rifts were opening up all over the world in a version of our world in modern times. So, it wouldn't have made sense for all of the golden children that I'm writing about to be from an American perspective, is set in America. It wouldn't have made sense to me. So it's one of those things that's just like, I don't know, like it just came very naturally. I was like, I want to have to feature people from different parts of the world. And then it's cultures and different cultures have always been very fascinating to me. I majored in international business in school. And so culture and language and different business environments were like all part of that. And it was always so fascinating to me how there are like basic things that all human beings need and all human beings will like fight for, like, for survival. But then once you get to a point where, all right, your basic needs are met, then people just branch out and become different. And they have different languages and different religions and different clothing, and it all works for them. And they just come up with this, and then you have another culture. So it was always such a fascinating topic for me. And obviously that can be applied to fantasy, and all the world building that you're doing is all part of that because you're creating new cultures. But yeah, to get to the root of the question, it really made sense for the world that I was trying to create, and I wanted to have people from different places and represent those different cultures a little bit if I could. So
No,
yeah.
I love it, and I think it was a good Good thing that you touched on like the fantasy world building and everything. It's funny that I'm like I was so shocked at finding someone from my own country versus like learning like about a made up new race. Like because nobody really does that. It's usually, if an author isn't from a place, they're not writing about it. So it was really, really fun to have that with everything else that I liked about the book, like the D&D feel, because they basically read like a campaign. I messaged you while I was reading it. I had asked you about your background with D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and it gave me a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 vibes.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I really, really enjoy that. So what kind of inspired this kind of genre for you?
Yeah, so I mean, fantasy romance slash romantasy has always been my thing. But as far as this particular feel for this particular book, I'll preface this by saying, like, I'm a mood writer as much as a mood reader.
Right.
So if I'm in the mood for something, like, that's going to come out in my writing. And at the time, I had just finished my first book, and the reviews were starting to roll in. And some people had said, oh, like the middle was a little bit slow, because my stuff is a little more character driven. So there are parts where, like, people are just talking, and that can be boring. I totally get it. But so I wanted there to be a little more action throughout, as opposed to the kind of story beats where you're just a little up and down and up and down and then climax and then end.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted it to have a little bit more action throughout.
Right.
And I have played D&D in the past, and I have DM'd for other people before. So I kind of, I can't even say like I drew on my experience from that. And like it is all my own world too. So I don't like to say like it's D&D inspired, because it's not necessarily the D&D world. It's just the vibes, the feel of it.
Right.
But I guess that's how my brain works, and that's
Uh-huh.
why I was interested in D&D, and that's why I was interested in fantasy romance. And it just made sense to me if I wanted a story where you had those characters, and I knew that I wanted to have an array of different characters and all with their own fun backstories. So then that easily leads into like everybody having their own side quest kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that absolutely feels like a party of each, separate people playing their own characters, because each character is like fleshed out like that, and they're not just mentioned in passing, right?
Right.
So it really just came together that way, which I
Yeah.
know is not really helpful to
No.
explain my thought process. And then it made sense in terms of like each of the encounters that you would have in D&D with, there's some that might end up in a fight, in a battle. There's some that might end up, like someone rolls really high for something and they
Yeah.
end up being able to talk their way out of it without, anybody getting hurt. So that kind of like keeping tension high, but at the same time, like you're still furthering the main narrative. And then like it's just a general quest plot line. So there's like these little, I can't even call them necessarily side quests, but they really are encounters like along the way. And then
Yeah.
you get to the end as they're kind of traveling, and they get to the main portion of the quest, and then all that stuff goes on.
Oh
So
my
yeah,
God.
it really worked out that way to be organized in that way. And then I had finished it, and I was like, whoa, like this absolutely reads like a D&D campaign. And
Yeah.
so when I was trying to market it, because marketing is terrible, it's so hard
I can imagine.
to try to like figure out, like put your thoughts together into something coherent to tell somebody who knows nothing about it what to expect, right? So
Yeah.
for me to be able to say like D&D meets romantasy, if you like either of those, if you like both of those, it's probably going to be your thing. it just worked out so well, and that attracted a lot of people that were like, D&D, I'm in. All right, sounds good. So
Yeah, no, but you're right. Like your DM experience does come out in this, and it does read just like a campaign. It was a very fun read. I was very excited to read. Every time I like picked it, I was like, ah, yay, time to go
yeah.
off and go read this. But no, it was fun. Um, and I was going to ask, but you already mentioned that how it connects with your previous standalone novel, which I have not read, but now I will. Um, and what was it called again?
The Treasured One.
The
Yeah, that's the
Treasured
first
One.
one. Mm-hmm.
So the way that it connects with that is that in this little mini series that you're doing, there are rifts that open up in the world. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, and feel free to cut me off at any point. I tend to like go off on tangents,
No,
but
you're fine.
my whole idea was like, I used to be a really big sci-fi buff. So my thought process was, let's have like first contact with alien races kind of vibes, but we're going to make the alien race Fae. So it's set in a version of our world where these rifts magically opened up. The humans don't know what's going on. And of course, like the military, the government gets very heavily involved. So there's a little bit of political stuff going on. Not that I dive too deeply into it. My thing is like fluffy palate cleansers. Like I'm not
Right.
trying to go too deep into it. But
Right.
yeah, so essentially you have our modern day world, and then like always kind of existing adjacent to it on another plane of existence, you have like a high fantasy fae world.
Hmm.
And the rift brings those two together. So and then it also ends up creating the golden children, which are the humans with magical powers.
Okay.
So the first book follows Avery, who's very briefly mentioned in the second book, but they both kind of stand alone. The first book was my debut, so I tell people like it might be a little bit rough around the edges. Like there are things that I would go back and change if I had the chance to. But I think we always feel that way about our work. It's like
Right. We're a worst critic.
never 100% happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like no matter how many editing sweeps you do, and there were so many editing sweeps. Yeah, like you get sick of your own work after a point, and you're
Oh
like,
my
oh
God, I can
God, I never want
imagine.
to look at it again.
I can imagine. I do have one question about just this being a standalone.
Mhm.
Are we ever gonna see Marcia again?
Really hard to say.
Okay, okay,
Probably not.
okay, okay.
Because like not only do I intend them all to stand alone, but this one especially just kind of took place separate from everything else.
Fair.
And she's
That's
just kind of
cool.
doing her own stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I think maybe a couple of the places that were mentioned that they visited might show up in some future books.
Cool.
But I am planning for the third book to kind of go back to the human world and focus on more on that, because the first book was kind of half and half human world and Fey world. This one was almost 100% in the Fey world.
Yeah.
And then for the third book, I wanted to explore a little bit of like, how has the United States changed since the rift
Ooh.
opened? How has the world taken it? Like, it's going to be like very slightly futuristic. So like
Yeah.
self-driving cars and things, but not like
That's amazing.
teleportation, like,
That's cool.
yeah. So,
That's cool.
um,
Yeah, I'll definitely have to read The Treasured One then for sure. With writing The Treasured One and the Steadfast One, what are like some challenges that you've had writing, we're talking about the Steadfast One like mostly right now, but what's been the biggest challenge about publishing these and writing them?
yeah. So I would probably say the biggest challenge is just finding the time and the energy to sit down and write. I mean,
Hmm.
there are some people that do this full time. I don't. I have a full time job. And then in the evenings and weekends, I try to fit a little bit of writing in. So it definitely does not progress as fast as I would like it to. I
Hmm.
don't know how there are people like churning out a book every 2 months. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm lucky to get like a book every year. That's like really good for me. So that kind of makes things difficult because in the publishing world, I think readers have started to expect faster releases.
Right.
Um, Publishers want faster releases. So, like, I work with a small independent publisher, and they've been very flexible with me. It's not quite like traditional publishing, that's a lot more strict. But they still would love if I were faster, and that
Right.
gives puts a little pressure on you. And yeah, like just for your readers, like they don't intend anything by it when they say, "Oh, I can't wait for the next one." Get to writing the next one. And it's very it feels good to know that they're looking forward to it, but at the same time, you're like, "Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
can't write this," and it just adds like a little more pressure. So
Yeah. No,
trying to balance
I will
that.
never understand why people get so mad. And like especially when Rebecca Yarros, like right after Onyx Storm came out, was like, I'm gonna take a break. I'm like, yes, you deserve it. You've pumped like book after book after book and you have other obligations too. And everybody's just so mad. It's like,
I
why?
think
We have
people just
fun.
don't think about how much work goes into it because
Yeah.
when you're reading, like you can knock out a book in a day, in a
Right.
weekend. But when you're writing it, like each of those scenes, you are typing out every single word, you are thinking about it,
Yeah.
constantly brainstorming. There's so much that goes into it. And then all the editing and the formatting and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to think, oh, it's simple, but it's not so simple.
No, no.
I wish it were.
It is not. It is
uh,
not. But with all these challenges aside, what has been like your favorite part about publishing these?
I would say finally sharing my work with other people
Hmm.
because like I always had these random thoughts ruminating in my brain, and now at this point some of those are out in the world, and then I meet new people who are like, "Oh my god, I read your stuff and I loved it." And I'm like, "Oh my god, like because our books are pieces of ourselves. So to
Yeah.
be able to like put that out there, it makes you feel a little vulnerable. And when somebody comes back and they say, I loved it, like it feels so good. It's like, oh my God, like this little piece of myself that I put out there is appreciated and loved.
Yeah.
And it feels so good. So that is a wonderful part of the process.
That's good. Yeah, no, you guys work very, very hard. Like it just shows in your writing, how much time you take and like I really like the voice you give to your characters and the way you fleshed every single one of them out. I didn't feel like I was attached to all of them and to some sort of degree. So when
Yeah.
things happen, you're like, oh, it's just this character. It's not just this character, like you knew you liked the character. You grew with the character. It was nice. I appreciate the kind of fleshing out with characters. And so for those who have not read the Steadfast One, for those who are thinking about it, watching this, going, this might be up my boat or up my boat, might be
Up their alley, yeah.
up my alley.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
might be up my alley. But if they're thinking that this might be something they wanna read because they might enjoy it, give me
Mhm.
3 words that sum up the Steadfast One.
Ooh, okay. I would say adventurous.
Okay.
Um, if found family can count as one word,
It does. I'll allow it. I'll allow
okay,
it.
'cause that is also a very big theme. And
I love it.
given that that's like the trope that kind of sums it up, like I don't know what other word I would use for that. Well, maybe like camaraderie, like that kind of thing. And then for the third, I guess romantic. I don't think of this. I mean, it is pretty like probably 50-50 with the fantasy and the romance.
It is, but the way you wrote the romance is like one of those that is like genuine romance. Like
Yeah.
it's it. I can't. I refuse to like to. talk much about it, but it's
Yeah, like I feel like I don't want to say that it's necessarily romantic in the way that like
people expect it to be. Like it's not a
classic
sexy,
romance.
sexy,
Yeah.
like
No,
ooh.
it's not. Yeah, it's the character development and the character adventures that bring the people together, and you share those moments. There's like kind of forced proximity because you're all on a quest together. So
Yeah.
naturally, you're gonna have conversations. You're gonna see each other at their best and at their worst,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my
So,
God, the banter in this book was fantastic. It
yes.
gave me so much life.
Oh, that honestly, I
So
had the
good.
most fun with that. Like Lutherie's character
Oh, he's
kind of wrote himself, and I always hate to say that because it's not that easy that it just okay done. But
right.
this was like the only book. I mean, I've only written 2 books, but this was like the only book that I wrote that actually kind of came together on its own without me having to like shove it along and keep it going, because Lutherie just kind of took off and ran with it, and it flowed. So
It
um,
does. I
yeah.
really enjoyed Luthor. A great character. Great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, somebody who was fun and who had flaws,
Yes.
because there's so many, um, especially I would say in fantasy romance, like so many guys that are like, I don't want to say one dimensional, but they fit into a certain mold.
Right. Right.
And I was like, so first of all, I love like cinnamon rolls and golden retrievers more than
Mhm.
like the morally gray. Like sometimes I'm in the mood for a morally gray hero, but usually I like chaotic energy and a guy who like has qualities that I would like in real life, but
Right.
who's also like a little bit of a mess.
Right. We all have
Um,
one.
so yeah, that's like Lutherie to a T. Is like he has potential, but he's also like he needs a strong woman to be willing to like
Yes.
put them together.
Yeah.
So it worked out the dynamic.
No, I love it. It was a really good dynamic. I really appreciated it. It was very nicely done.
Thank you, thank
Of
you.
course. But
Yeah.
well, I think these were all the questions I had for you on the Steadfast one. Highly enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. I will be picking up the Treasured one as well. Don't mind my dog. I mean,
No,
it's
you're fine.
fine.
Yes, they're
But
around here somewhere.
I will be picking up the Treasured one. I'm very interested to see how these little interconnected ones will keep connecting in the future.
Mhm.
And when does the Steadfast one come out again?
Tuesday. So
On
very soon. Yeah, I don't know when this will come out, but June 17th.
June
So
17th.
very soon.
Yes, yes. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. Yes. I mean, it was a bit of a challenge bringing everything together for like release, because there's all that kind of stuff that goes out on in the background as well. Like after writing the book, it's never over.
Yeah, no, I
Then
can
you're doing all the
imagine.
planning and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that my ARC readers come together and turn out, and I have a couple book tours that are planned. So hopefully the word will get out there and a lot more people will pick it up and give it a try.
Absolutely. It's a great one. I highly recommend it.
Thank
But
you.
so thanks again for hanging out with us and thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time. So